Hello everyone. I only had 3 feet of workbench space in my garage. I was feeling the crunch, so I added another bench. I like Matthias Wandel's design for a workbench, using a solid core door for the bench top. But I made a 4-foot workbench because space is limited. Matthias's design lends itself well to modifications, which enabled me to use a shorter bench top made out of plywood. I used one 1/2 inch thick 4x8 sheet of plywood cut into 3 pieces at 48 inches by 30 inches each, then sandwiched them together to create a 1.5 inch thick bench top. I later decided to add a rubber floor mat to protect the bench top surface. You can get a free copy of Matthias's workbench design and many other designs at his website, woodgears.ca. I also recommend visiting his YouTube channel, where his theme is woodworking for engineers. He has many interesting creations. The plans include a comprehensive bill of materials. The list includes a solid core door. I'm not using a door for this one because I'm only adding 4 feet of workbench length to my existing 3 feet of bench space in the garage. I used a 4x8 sheet of 1/2 inch plywood instead, and I cut 3 pieces at 30 inches by 48 inches to combine to 1.5 inches thick. So I added a sheet of 1/2 inch plywood to my list. Here's how I built my workbench. I started by cutting the 3 pieces of plywood at 48 inches by 30 inches. The plywood had a twist to it right from the lumber store, so I stacked them on top of each other on the flat surface of the garage floor and weighted them down. I was hoping this would help to flatten them out over the next 2 weeks, and it actually made a big difference. The plans call for 4 bench legs and 2 leg bracket rungs, all cut from 2x4s. A 60-tooth saw blade makes a very smooth cut. The plans call for 2 2x6 cross pieces. Matthias's plan calls for 75-inch aprons to accommodate a standard length door. I made mine 46 inches to carry a 48-inch bench top. I set the miter saw angle to 22.5 degrees as Matthias's plans suggest. I clamped a stop block against the previously cut piece. It hadn't been moved. This provides a cut position for the other end of the apron. This is accurate enough since the end cut detail is purely aesthetic. Cutting this sacrificial guide tells me exactly where the blade is.
I put a guide rail on here with a couple clamps. That way I can just lay it in, bring it up flush with the top edge. I'll just check the position here. Yeah, that's perfect. So I put another C-clamp right here just to keep it from moving. The side leg is centered up on the top cross piece. Virtually perfect. The top cross piece was brought up. I brought the end of that cross piece up against the bottom of this piece, so I know it's perfectly flush. I'm ready to drill. Just want to countersink these heads a little bit. These are 3-inch screws. Just going to hold it together temporarily. So they're really solidly held together while I drill for the holes for the pegs. Ways to go yet. These dowels need to be 3.5 inches long. So that's 1.5 inches through the 2x4 and then 2 inches down. 2 inches penetration into the 2x6 cross piece. This is number 1. I had to flip this over because this is the top. Bottom of this bottom rung is 2.5 inches from the bottom of the leg. So that's where I need it to be, right there. I mark 2.5 here, and then 3.5 up. which is here, 3.5. So that's where that rung is, underneath here. There's one peg on the bottom rung, so it will go right in the middle of this. This is right there, also known as 1 3/4. That's the center. That's where the peg will be. These screws will each be 1 inch from the center. One there, one there. This is Type Bond 3 wood glue. Using a wet rag just to try to get a lot of that glue off, that excess glue that squeezed out of there. I'm going to be using the Gorilla Glue epoxy to glue the pegs in. Now, part of the reason why I selected this is because it's a structural gap filler. And frankly, drilling my holes, my bit was wobbly and so on. And at certain points in the bore, the peg's pretty loose. So I'm going to use this to fill the gap. So they call this a mixer. It's actually molded into the plunger here. It was in there between the two sides. You just have to cut it out. With the package pointing upward, remove the closure from the 2 syringes. With the package still pointing upward, eliminate air and ensure even dispensing by slowly pushing the plunger until both the resin and the hardener are at the tip. Push the plunger to dispense even amounts of resin and hardener onto a clean, disposable, contained surface. The package itself can be used as a mixing tray. There it is. And then just squeeze the plunger to remove all the air. I haven't removed all the air from one side yet. That's funny. There it is. I'm just going to stir it up in here. All right. if I can get off enough of this excess, I won't have to spend as much time sanding to remove it once it's hardened. Now after that sets up, or after 24 hours, I'll take a saw and just cut those off. So these single pegs on the bottom, this is upside down now, this is the bottom. These will be exposed and showing, so I'm going to protect this surface a little bit with just a piece of paperboard. Alright, no scratches from the teeth around here. Now I can just sand this down.
I marked 3.5 inches and 7 inches.
Just trying to hide that little mark from me. So I'm trial fitting all these pieces together. First I had to fit the mortises around the 2x4s in all 4 places. And then I crank down on these clamps to hold everything together. I have clamps here and here. There was a problem with the whole thing being racked where it was rocking. This corner and this corner were rocking back and forth. And I've been fiddling around with it a bit, trying to figure out what's causing that. And I discovered, and you probably won't be able to see it on the video, but this board here is twisted. It runs this way. It goes like this, exaggerated, but it's twisted that way. So if I tighten up at the top here, it causes the whole thing to rack because it pulls it that way. So the solution, unfortunately, and I've already started working on it, is to adjust the depth of these mortises so that on this one, it will be deeper the lower it gets. That way it'll accommodate that unevenness that it has. It'll sit in there flatter. So I've been working on making the bottom half of this, or the bottom of that mortise, kind of like a ramp.
This sketched cross-sectional view clarifies what I'm trying to describe.
From top to bottom, it's ramping lower and lower into the board. At the same time now, I also need to do the same thing on this end, so one end doesn't get all the adjustment. I don't need to do a 1/4 inch adjustment on this and leave this flat. That wouldn't help. So what I need to do now is, since I already adjusted this one, is I'm going to adjust the top here on this one.
And by the way, the opposite side apron is twisted as well.
Actually, I can probably show you if I tighten this up. Let me tighten that, take this clamp off the bottom. Tighten this one. There, so now this is squeezed up here. And you can see and hear that the whole thing rocks. When I remove that clamp that's squeezing the top here, it's no longer rocking because I removed the spring from it. This is actually acting like a spring. When you squeeze this tight here, it pulls that 2x4 this way, which lifts this corner. It'll lift that corner and then the whole thing rocks. As soon as I unloaded that C-clamp here, it's flat and stable. Oh yeah, they fit really snug, that's for sure. Okay, so now look at this. That's how much this thing is twisted.
You can also see here how the other apron is twisted too. See the racking and tilting?
And since this end over here is up, see that? It's twisted upward. I'm going to cut down into this mortise to flatten this surface, to make it level.
I ended up adjusting all 4 mortises to get both aprons reasonably straight.
And I'll do that with just a straight back saw. And the idea here is I'm going to cut and try to get about 1/16 of an inch or so, maybe more, up to 1/8 of an inch cut here and here without touching this other edge, the far edge. That shouldn't get cut. That way I know I have a ramp down at that angle. I don't know if you can see where I cut those. So remember, we had all this twist in this board. So I removed material from these two mortises to try to compensate for that, or to adjust for that. Nothing. It's flat as a board. These are going to correct that problem.
My tape is 3/4 of an inch wide, perfect for what I need here.
An inch down, 2 3/4, an inch up. Okay. Wow. These plywood boards have been pressed under all those weights for about 3 weeks, and they're still not flat, it's still springing up. So I'm using this clamping tool edge guide to mark my dimensions. This is actually the bottom. So when I flip it over, I'll be able to line that up with the frame. So as I'm lining these marks up under here with the frame, what I'm finding is that they're a pretty good indicator of how square the frame is. And it's actually very square without trying to make any corrections. I know the edge, the front edge of this apron is 2.5 inches in on the plywood. And then the thickness of the apron is 1.5 inches, so I just need to take the 2.5 and add 3/4 and I'm right in the middle. So I'll just mark it that way. That cross piece on this leg assembly is 5 3/8 in. Add 3/4 to that, and I get 6 1/8. That's the center point on that cross piece. So I'll just mark that. Check my marks again. Everything was nicely lined up before I drilled that hole. And it still is. So I'm starting with the center holes first, just to keep the whole thing flat. Keep it flat and keep it so it isn't moving around as I drill the holes. I'm not driving these all the way in yet. Those are in there just to help line it up. You can see all my screw holes are pretty well centered, as they should be. These are number 8 by 1 3/4 construction screws. First layer of the workbench is glued and screwed. This is 4 feet. I made a mark at 24 inches. And then this is 2.5 inches under, plus 3/4, 3 1/4. So the first locating pin will be directly above the center of that apron. And it's the same thing here. 3 1/4. That's 24 inches. Second locating pin. So I'm using these 8D common, well not common, 8D finishing nails as pins. They're about 98 thousandths diameter. So let's see what we have here. I want to drill it slightly smaller. A 41 drill is 96 thousandths. 42 drill is 93 thousandths. I think I'll use that. That means these will go in with a 5 thousandths interference fit. Okay, and by the way, I have this second layer of plywood clamped in the four corners in position. I lined up the edges, front and back, left and right. And I'm ready to locate these pins. Okay guys, does anyone know what I just did? Did you hear that hit? It went through and made a clunk. I think it hit dead center on that screw underneath here. So I need to put a 1/4 of an inch offset on here. So right here. Don't drive it home. I need to be able to pull it out real easy. When I lift this, I'm going to lift this layer off to spread the glue underneath it. Now I need a 1/4 inch offset on this one. And a pin. This one I drove a little far. I just want to make sure it's, if I can pull it out straight here. There. There we go. So when I go to lay this back on, these nails have to find their original holes. That will tell me I'm lined up. Liquid nails, heavy duty. They're calling for a 1/4 inch bead. So, no, that looks like a much bigger than a 1/4 inch. You need a nice long pointy thing to puncture the seal in there. Now I stayed somewhat back from the edge with the liquid nails. I wanted to leave room for a bead of Titebond wood glue near the edge. I found the hole there. Yeah. I'm sure that's it. Yeah, it's going right in. Okay, 24 hours. And here comes the third layer of plywood. This one I'm going to just have to eyeball, make sure it's lined up. Gotta remove all this glue that's squeezed out between the joints. Yep, that's good. I'll follow that up with a little bit of palm sander here. Boy, that's really smooth. Still going to hit it with some 100 grit, or maybe 120. Okay, so it's time to put some finish on this wood. And I searched around in my stockpile of old containers and I found that I have this Minwax penetrating stain in gunstock color. And this Minwax penetrate stains and seals wood finish, colonial maple, which is
about 1/3 of a gallon. And I have this Varathane floor finish, which is polyurethane floor finish. High gloss floor finish, adds a warm golden glow. All right, so what I'm thinking is I'm definitely going to use the colonial maple on the legs and the bottom of the frame here. And then I'm debating whether I'll use it for the top, or maybe I'll mix it up a bit and use this gun stock, which is just slightly darker. Maybe it'll provide a little contrast. And then I'm going to polyurethane the top. This is for floors, so it's going to be a nice hard finish. In 24 or 24 plus hours, I'll start the process of putting the final coats on it, which will be likely 2 coats of polyurethane on the bench top. Other than that, I think that's all it's going to get. Okay, the second coat is done. I'll let this sit now for at least 24 hours, come back and check it, and then maybe after 48 hours it should be harder, and I'll figure out what I'm going to do next. So it's been a full 48 hours since the second and final coat of polyurethane was laid on top of this bench top. It's nicely hardened now. There's no stickiness at all left in it. Just smooth and hard. So it's going to provide a protective coating, and it's going to encapsulate the wood fibers that were loose in that piece of just regular plywood I used for the bench top. But as I use this bench top, I'm going to be throwing things that are made of steel and metal and cast iron and all kinds of other things on here. And this surface isn't going to last. It's going to get chewed up. So I decided I'm going to protect this as well. And I got a rubber floor mat from the big box. It was 48 by 36 inches. So I cut 6 inches off the width, and this is what I have remaining. And it's a perfect 30 by 48 to fit the bench top. So this is the end of this video. The workbench is completed, and I'm going to start using it. I hope you enjoyed this and got some useful information out of it. Also, you really should check out Matthias Wandel's YouTube channel and his website. He's a really smart guy. He's got a lot of useful stuff. His website is woodgears.ca. Check it out. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and please like and subscribe. See you next time. Thank you for watching. Please take a moment to like and subscribe.